Have you ever wondered how a simple Roman soldier became a legend in the most powerful army in history? The answer lies in the Centurion, the leader who transformed ordinary men into immortal warriors. With strict discipline and ruthless leadership, these men were the heart of the legions. Here you'll discover how centurions led by example, how they inspired courage in the midst of chaos, and why their presence was able to turn even the most ordinary of men into true heroes. Want to know how they did it? So stay with me, because this story will change your view on leadership, transformation, and legacy. Centurions were the essence of the Roman army, occupying an indispensable position for the success of the legions. They weren't just military leaders. They were the direct connection between the high commanders and the soldiers who formed the basis of the Roman force. Their importance lay not only in their ability to command, but also in the way they inspired their men and ensured that each soldier followed orders with loyalty and discipline. The origin of the position of centurion dates back to the 8th century BC, in the early days of Rome, when the city was still a small community facing constant challenges to survive. At this time, Roman armies were made up of 3,000 men, organized into smaller units called maniples. Each maniple had about 80 to 100 soldiers, led by a centurion chosen not only for his strength, but also for his intelligence and skill in commanding. The centurion's role was clear: to lead his troops on the battlefield and ensure that they maintained order even in the most chaotic moments. He was always on the front lines, facing the same dangers as his soldiers, which created a unique connection between leader and LED. This proximity was not common in other armies of the time and was one of the factors that made the Roman army so effective. In addition to his role on the battlefield, the centurion had numerous responsibilities outside of it. He was responsible for training soldiers, ensuring that they were physically prepared and well coordinated for military campaigns. He also oversaw the maintenance of equipment, the construction of fortifications, and the logistical organization during long marches. These administrative tasks were just as important as their actions in combat, as they ensured that the army was always ready for any challenge. Have you ever tried to unravel what made Rome the largest empire in the world, but ended up lost in an avalanche of details? Don't worry, you're not alone. Imagine finally mastering the most decisive moments in Roman history, learning about the brilliant strategies of generals like Julius Caesar and Scipio Africanus, and understanding how their tactics shaped the fate of the world. With that in mind, I created the digital book, The 10 Battles That Shaped the Roman Empire, where you will have access to a clear, objective analysis full of exclusive curiosities, discover how Rome won battles considered impossible, and become a true expert in Roman military history. Don't waste time. Access the pinned comment and guarantee your copy right now. Enjoy it before the units run out. Over time, as Rome grew and its military campaigns became more complex, the structure of the army evolved. New reforms were introduced to make the legions more efficient, and the role of the centurion accompanied these changes. He not only led, but also acted as a mediator, ensuring that commanders' orders were understood and executed in a precise manner by each soldier. Centurions were known for their strict discipline both with themselves and with their troops. One of the secrets of his effective leadership was his ability to command respect without losing the trust of his men. They held the army together under the most difficult circumstances, reinforcing the Roman motto that strength is in unity. Another fascinating aspect was how centurions became true symbols of Rome. Their armor was carefully crafted, with details that highlighted their rank and status. The helmet, often decorated with transverse ridges, made them easily recognizable on the battlefield. This visual recognition was essential to maintaining order in the midst of the chaos of war. However, the life of a centurion was not all glory and recognition. They carried an immense weight on their backs, being responsible not only for success in battles, but also for the life of every man under their command. Bravery was a basic requirement for the position, but the real differentiator was the ability to lead with strategy, patience, and firmness. As Rome expanded, centurions became even more important. They represented the strength of the empire in conquered territories, helping to stabilize regions and ensure that the legions remained an unstoppable force. This history of dedication, sacrifice, and leadership makes centurions central figures not only in the Roman army but in the history of Rome as a whole. With this solid foundation in place, what did the future hold for centurions as Rome advanced from a city-state to one of the greatest empires in history. Before continuing, I saw here that you haven't subscribed to the channel. You won't want all the content about Rome that we always bring. Imagine yourself in the middle of an endless march, the sound of legionnaires' sandals pounding the dry ground as the scorching Mediterranean sun turns the dust into suffocating clouds. At the head of the group, a man walks upright with firm steps and a presence that exudes authority. He is not just a leader, he is the symbol of discipline and willpower, the figure who keeps everything running, even in the face of the most extreme adversity. That man is the Centurion, the foundation of the Roman legions. At first, centurions were direct leaders, commanding up to 100 soldiers in units called maniples. His tasks were simple only in appearance: lead, discipline, and inspire. But as military campaigns became more complex, the pressure on these men increased. What worked in smaller battles was not enough to face increasingly organized enemies and increasingly sophisticated strategies. It was then that Gaius Marius, one of Rome's greatest military reformers, realized the need for a change. In the late 2nd century BC, he introduced reforms that not only professionalized the Roman army, but also redefined the role of centurions, turning them into key parts of an impeccable military machine. One of the most important changes was the introduction of a clear hierarchy among the centurions. Before that, the position was basically a leadership title, without distinction of specific functions among leaders. Marian reforms divided command within the maniples into two levels: the anterior centurion, who was responsible for the front line, and the posterior centurion, who coordinated the rear ranks and reinforced the formation. The previous centurion was the embodiment of courage. He led his men directly into combat, facing danger head-on. There was no room for hesitation. He needed to be quick, make accurate decisions, and maintain the morale of his troops even in the most desperate situations. The later centurion, on the other hand, played a more tactical role. He monitored movements, adjusted formations, and reinforced critical points when necessary. Despite being less physically exposed, his responsibility was immense to ensure that the troop structure remained intact. This division of duties brought new efficiency to the legions. Now each centurion could concentrate on his specific tasks, and troops responded more quickly and accurately to orders. In addition, the number of soldiers under the command of each centurion was reduced, allowing them to lead with more focus and detailed supervision. But it was not only the functions that changed. Marian reforms also introduced meritocracy within the ranks of the army. Centurions who demonstrated skill, leadership, and bravery had the chance to rise through the ranks, taking on larger and more prestigious commands. This not only rewarded individual effort, but also created a cycle of continuous improvement. Each soldier knew that, with dedication, he could reach a rank of respect, which increased motivation and commitment to the Roman cause. Beyond the battlefield, centurions had responsibilities that went far beyond leading troops. They trained the soldiers, ensuring that each man was in perfect physical and mental condition. They supervised the maintenance of equipment, coordinated long marches, and organized the construction of camps and fortifications. They were true military managers, capable of transforming a group of disorganized recruits into a cohesive and deadly unit. Visually, the centurions were also unmistakable. Their armor was custom and often decorated with details that indicated their status and bravery. The helmet, with its transverse crest, was a symbol of authority that could be spotted from a distance, giving soldiers a reference point even amid the chaos of battle. They carried a vine stick, used not only as a weapon, but as a symbol of discipline and leadership. The hierarchical structure, introduced by the reforms, also brought stability to the army. With clearly defined roles, the legions functioned as a finely tuned machine. Centurions were the intermediaries between generals and troops, translating grandiose strategies into practical orders that soldiers could carry out. This system proved to be so efficient that it became a hallmark of the Roman legions. Not only did it increase effectiveness on the battlefield, but it also reinforced trust between soldiers and their leaders. Each legionary knew that he could rely on the judgment and courage of his centurion, which created a united and ruthless army. Many said that having a centurion was like basically having a commander on the front line, fighting by your side. Tell me here in the comments, if you think he was the inspiration for the other soldiers. I want to know your opinion. Gaius Marius's military reforms marked a fundamental turning point in the history of the Roman army. Among the most impactful changes, the creation of a detailed hierarchy within the legions cemented the role of the primus pilus as the most important figure among the centurions. This position, translated as first lancer, was not just a title, but the culmination of years of dedication, bravery, and military leadership. The primus pilus commanded the first century of the first cohort of a legion, a special unit composed of the most veteran and experienced legionaries. These men were no ordinary soldiers. They were the elite of the legion, hardened by countless campaigns and chosen for their loyalty and skill. Leading this elite force required more than tactical knowledge. The primus pilus needed to be a living example of discipline, courage, and efficiency. To reach this position, a centurion went through a long journey. He needed to start as an ordinary soldier and excel repeatedly in combat, demonstrating leadership, strategic intelligence, and the ability to maintain troop morale even in the harshest conditions. The role of the primus pilus went beyond the battlefield. He was responsible for organizing and supervising the more experienced legionnaires, ensuring that they were always ready to take on any challenge. He also managed tasks such as building fortifications, maintaining equipment, and the logistics of military campaigns, demonstrating a unique combination of administrative and practical skills. After a year of exercising this position of very high responsibility, the primus pilus received an extraordinary reward: his admission to the equestrian order, one of the most respected classes in Roman society. This promotion represented more than an honor. It marked a change in status, allowing the former centurion to participate in the political life of Rome. He could assume administrative positions, act as an advisor, or even play influential roles in the administration of the provinces of the empire. The transition from the primus pilus to the equestrian order was a direct reflection of Marius's reforms, which introduced meritocracy into the Roman army. This policy strengthened the legions, encouraging each soldier to exert themselves to the utmost, knowing that the reward for their dedication could be significant. It was a system that not only rewarded individual merit, but also boosted the morale of the entire army. Visually, the primus pilus was an imposing figure. He wore meticulously decorated armor that highlighted his position, with details that symbolized his achievements and status. His helmet, often adorned with impressive crests, made him recognizable from a distance by allies and enemies alike. This striking presence was essential to maintain order and inspire confidence among the troops. Within the military hierarchy, the primus pilus was the most important link between the top commanders and the troops. He translated the general's strategies into clear, practical orders to the soldiers, ensuring that each legionary knew exactly what to do. This direct and efficient connection made the Roman legions an almost unbeatable force, capable of operating with precision even in the most chaotic conditions. Marius's reforms and the role of the primus pilus were a watershed in Rome's military history. They ensured that the army was led by the most skilled men, further strengthening the legion's reputation as one of the best organized and most efficient military forces of antiquity. As the empire expanded, the challenges facing the army increased, requiring constant adaptation. The primus pilus, with its experience and leadership, continued to be a centerpiece in this system, showing how Rome knew how to combine innovation and tradition to stay at the top for centuries. Before proceeding, I saw here that you forgot to like the video. Help us to always bring you more content about Rome, and leave your like. Imagine a scenario in which thousands of Roman soldiers march in perfect ranks, crossing mountains, forests, and hostile territories. The army advances with an almost mechanical precision, but this organization does not happen by chance. At the center of this military rigor are the centurions, men who not only lead but organize and sustain the entire structure of the legions. They are the backbone of the Roman army, responsible for transforming groups of soldiers into a disciplined and ruthless force. Centurions were more than commanders. They were the managers of the army. In addition to leading troops into battle, they had the responsibility of overseeing the ongoing training of soldiers. Training was not a sporadic activity, but a constant process, which included everything from rigorous physical exercises to the practice of tactical formations and the use of weapons. A legionary's efficiency depended directly on the attentive supervision of his centurion, who corrected mistakes, encouraged overcoming, and molded recruits into lethal combatants. But the work of the centurions went far beyond training. They were responsible for the army's logistics, a crucial task for the success of any campaign. Imagine the complexity of organizing the march of thousands of men, pack animals and wagons, all over challenging terrain and with the constant threat of enemy ambushes. Centurions ensured that essential supplies such as food, weapons and water were available at the right time. They also planned and supervised the construction of fortified camps, known as castrum. Each camp was designed to protect troops at night, and its construction followed a strict pattern, with walls, trenches and watchtowers. On the battlefield, the presence of a centurion was unmistakable. They led by example, standing on the front lines and facing the same dangers as their soldiers. This created a bond of trust between them and their troops, as each man knew that their leader was willing to fight by his side. This courage was accompanied by iron discipline. If a soldier broke formation or hesitated, the centurion was there to correct immediately, with words or actions. The authority of the centurions was not questioned, but that did not mean that they ruled in fear. His leadership combined steadfastness with inspiration. They were respected because they represented the perfect balance between command and camaraderie. This posture was crucial at critical moments, when the morale of the troops needed to be maintained, even in the face of the worst adversity. Being chosen as a centurion was one of the highest honors for a Roman soldier, but this position was not distributed at random. Many centurions earned their position by demonstrating extraordinary bravery in combat, leading decisive actions that changed the course of a battle. Others were promoted by generals who recognized their competence and leadership ability. A few had the privilege of being appointed directly by the Senate or even by the emperor himself, which was a sign of incomparable confidence and prestige. In addition to their military duties, centurions also played vital administrative roles. They organized the distribution of tasks in the camp, supervised the maintenance of equipment, and even mediated disputes between soldiers. It was common for them to be responsible for managing the legion's banners, sacred symbols that represented the honor and spirit of their troops. On some occasions, centurions were deployed for special missions, such as escorting emissaries, negotiating with local leaders, or leading detachments on strategic raids. The importance of centurions was not limited to the military field. Its influence extended to the inner workings of the legions and the stability of the army as a whole. They were the link that connected the high commanders, such as the tribunes and the generals, to the ranks of ordinary soldiers. Their decisions and actions ensured that orders coming from the top were understood and executed accurately. This clear and efficient leadership structure was one of the reasons why the Roman army was so feared and respected. Centurions were not only war leaders, they were the organizational heart of the legions. Every role they played, from leading troops to managing resources, was essential to the army's survival and success. And while her position was challenging, it was also highly rewarding, both in terms of prestige and influence. And don't forget to get your digital book 10 Battles That Shaped the Roman Empire. It's very important that you get it right now, before the units run out. Roman centurions were unmistakable figures in the army, both for their authority and for the visual impact of their uniforms and equipment. Every detail of his dress and weaponry not only reflected his position, but also served practical and symbolic purposes on the battlefield. Centurions' helmets were distinctive, designed to make them stand out among the soldiers. Unlike ordinary helmets, they featured transverse ridges made of materials such as ostrich feathers or horsehair, which could be colored in vibrant hues, such as red or white. This characteristic made it easier for the centurion to be identified by both his troops and enemies, especially in the midst of the chaos of battle. Armor was another element that set centurions apart. Made of bronze or polished steel, they often bore ornamental engravings, such as images of Roman gods, eagles, or other symbols of power. Some armor was designed to highlight the musculature, symbolizing strength and leadership. In addition, the brilliance of the well-kept armor increased the imposing presence of the centurions in front of the troops and adversaries. Awards and decorations were also part of his appearance. Medallions, bracelets, and necklaces were worn over armor, representing acts of bravery or achievements in previous battles. These items were not only decorative, but also a visible demonstration of merit and expertise, reinforcing the respect and confidence of their men. The centurions' weapons were equally impressive. Although they used the gladius, the standard short sword of the legions, Versions intended for centurions often had hilts decorated with precious metal accents or engravings that symbolized their authority. In addition, they carried the vine staff, a tool of both command and discipline, which represented their authority within the legions. The tunic worn under the armor was another significant element. Usually in colors such as red or white, it had both a practical and symbolic function. Red, for example, was associated with courage and bloodshed in battle, while white represented purity and duty. Each aspect of a centurion's uniform was designed to fulfill a specific function, to highlight his authority, inspire confidence among his men, and demonstrate power in the face of the enemy. In addition, this attire reinforced the centurion's status as an exceptional leader, whose position was earned by merit, bravery, and skill. These visual elements, coupled with the crucial role of centurions, made them the pillars of the Roman legions, both on the battlefield and in the organization of the army. And there is still much more to understand about how his leadership influenced the legions and Rome's military success. Imagine a Roman camp at dawn. The sound of hammers adjusting weapons and soldiers repeating movements echoes as the morning mist begins to dissipate. At the center of this activity is the centurion, with his imposing presence and firm voice. He watches everything carefully, correcting mistakes, encouraging efforts, and above all, ensuring that each man is ready to face whatever comes. That's the real job of a centurion, not just leading but preparing your troops to be perfect machines of war. Centurions were not only combat leaders, they were the architects of Roman military excellence. Under his supervision, the legionaries underwent rigorous training that transformed ordinary peasants into unbeatable soldiers. Daily exercises included attack and defense formations, hand-to-hand combat training, and long marches carrying armor and weapons. Every movement was repeated to perfection, for in the centurion's view, practice not only made the soldier better, it made him invincible. In addition to physical training, centurions shaped the mentality of soldiers. They taught the importance of obedience and teamwork, emphasizing that the legion's success depended on everyone following orders with absolute precision. Each legionnaire knew that it was not enough to be strong, it was necessary to be disciplined, and this lesson came directly from his centurions who led by example. But the role of centurions did not stop at training. They were responsible for assigning tasks that ensured the functioning of the legion. Building fortifications, organizing supplies, digging trenches, none of these were left to chance. Each soldier had a clear role, and the centurions ensured that everything was done quickly and efficiently. This organization was vital, as it allowed the legion to be a self-sufficient force, capable of surviving and winning even in the harshest conditions. Discipline was the foundation of everything, and the centurions were the guardians of that order. They did not tolerate serious failures, and rule-breaking was dealt with harshly. But his rigid leadership was accompanied by respect, because centurions were always willing to face the same challenges as their men. They didn't ask for anything they weren't willing to do, and this created a connection of trust and admiration between leaders and soldiers. In addition to their routine duties, centurions played strategic and operational roles. They led raids into enemy territory, exploring areas, gathering information, or sabotaging opponents. These missions required an extreme level of tactical skill, as any mistake could be fatal. Under the command of an experienced centurion, however, these operations were executed with precision, ensuring the Roman advantage in many campaigns. Another crucial aspect of the centurion's work was supervising construction projects and overseeing prisoners. When the legions built camps, centurions ensured everything was done according to Rome's strict standards. These camps were not merely temporary shelters, they were fortresses designed to protect the troops and serve as strategic bases. In cases where prisoners were captured, centurions ensured they were kept under control, preventing escapes and ensuring they could be used as sources of information or bargaining tools. But what truly set centurions apart was their ability to lead by example. During battles, they did not command from afar. They stood on the front lines, facing the same dangers as their men. This not only inspired confidence, but also reinforced the idea that they were leaders by merit, not just by title. For soldiers, knowing their centurion stood beside them in combat was a powerful reminder that they were fighting under leaders who understood the value of sacrifice and courage. Centurions were more than leaders. They were the heart of the legions. They maintained order, ensured efficiency, and prepared their troops to face any challenge. The combination of rigorous training, unwavering discipline, and exemplary leadership made the Roman legions an almost unbeatable force. The centurions' roles extended beyond battles and leading ranks. Some of them held prestigious positions in the Praetorian Guard, an elite military unit tasked with protecting the emperor and his family. This post was reserved for the most trusted and experienced, further emphasizing their importance within Rome's military system. Additionally, they were often called upon for administrative roles, overseeing the logistics of military campaigns, managing fortifications in strategic territories, or mediating local disputes on behalf of Rome. Their presence in war councils was indispensable. As leaders who dealt directly with the troops, centurions brought practical and detailed insights about battlefield conditions. During these meetings, they contributed to military strategy planning, evaluated tactics, and suggested adjustments based on their experience. Their opinions were respected and often decisive, ensuring that military operations were adapted to the realities faced by the legions. Beyond the prestige and influence, centurions were rewarded with significantly higher salaries than ordinary legionaries. They earned 5 to 15 times more, depending on their rank and seniority, in addition to receiving generous bonuses from the spoils of war. These material rewards recognized and encouraged their dedication, ensuring that the best men occupied these leadership positions. While some centurions abused their authority for personal gain, accepting bribes or favoring certain soldiers, most stood out for their bravery and commitment to the army. Their contributions extended far beyond the battlefield. They were the bridge connecting generals to the troops, helping shape winning strategies and ensuring the army's effectiveness. Centurions were the heart of the Roman legions. Their leadership, experience, and adaptability were essential factors in Rome's success as a military power. Despite challenges and controversies, their role was indispensable, solidifying them as fundamental pillars of the Roman Empire. Now you understand what made the centurion such a powerful and indispensable figure. He was more than a leader. He was the heart of the legions, the one responsible for transforming ordinary soldiers into legends. His discipline, courage, and leadership created the most feared army in history. And that's why we should look to them as an incredible example of how the right leadership can change everything. And remember, if you want to learn more about how Rome became the greatest empire of antiquity, check the pinned comment and grab your digital book, 10 Battles That Shaped the Roman Empire. Get yours today, because copies are limited. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss any of the fascinating stories we'll bring next. See you in the next video.